Thanks for joining us today. In this episode, we're featuring my Pearl White JDM 1993 Toyota Cresta Twin Turbo Tourer V. Japan was just entering its golden decade of accelerated economic and technological growth, also known as the Bubble Era, when the first generation Toyota Cresta hit the showroom floors and dealerships all across the country. It was marketed as the most refined and mature model of what became known as the three brother cars made up of the Chaser, Mark II, and Cresta. The first generation Cresta, introduced in 1980 at Toyota Vista dealerships assigned to the sales for the Cresta and its brother cars, featured innovative characteristics both in design and function for the time. Its quad rectangular headlights, combined with the square-cut taillights and slim profile B-pillars reminiscent of a hardtop convertible, were well received and characteristic of the sharp-edge styling that was gaining popularity in the 1980s. The highest trim, called the Super Lucent, was powered by a then powerful single overhead cam 2-liter straight-six 1G EU engine and, combined with available standard transmission and rear-wheel drive powertrain, would later define the characteristic features of the Toyota X chassis. The elegant styling, combined with the availability of trendy two-tone coloring, captured the spirit of Japan's younger generation as they sought to portray an affluent and leisurely lifestyle through an emerging high-so car or high society car boom. This trend in popular youth culture of the era is illustrated in the cult Japanese car manga Shakotan Boogie by renowned Wanga Midnight manga artist Michiharu Kusunoki. In Shakotan Boogie, self-proclaimed legendary pickup artist Shinichi Komazaki, known to his friends as Koma-chan, drives the first-gen Cresta with a flamboyant Boso body kit in hopes to win all the fun-seeking 80s ladies' attentions. The second-generation 70 series Crestas carried forth the sharp, square-cut styling theme of the first-generation 50 and 60 series Crestas and featured an interior with an even more focus on plushness and luxury. By August 1984, when the X70 was introduced, the high-so car boom was in full swing, and it's reported that even Toyota was surprised of the Cresta Chaser Mark II series' success. Fast forward 4 years, August 1988 marked the introduction of the third-gen Cresta, which lost some of the sharp angular body lines of the previous generations in favor of slightly rounded edges and styling. In addition to the 2-liter twin-turbo 1G GTE, a new 2.5-liter twin-turbo model featuring the 280-plus horsepower 1JZ GTE was released in 1989. This was a catalyst for an even greater cult following for the 80 series Cresta Chaser Mark IIs among drifters and Bosozoku alike, who launched these 1J-powered cars into a niche market demand that is still very much alive and arguably even stronger today. The legendary Yamaha-engineered 1JZ GTE engine, introduced just before the dawn of the 90s, brings us to discuss the featured car of this episode, the 90 series Cresta, introduced in October of 1992. The X90 adopted the softer, rounder body styles that were becoming the theme for the cars not only in the rest of Toyota's lineup, but also for other manufacturers across the industry. A large emphasis was placed on interior space, headroom, and legroom, and the 90 series was the first of the Crestas to be classified as a Class 3 size car for tax and registration purposes in Japan, in contrast to the smaller Class 5 classification in previous models. As far as the Cresta goes, this was also the last generation to offer a 5-speed R154 manual transmission from the factory, and the last model to use the 1JZ GTE engine without variable valve timing or VVTi. The Cresta we're focusing on today is one such example of the sought-after combination of the twin-turbo 280-plus horsepower non-VVTi 1JZ GTE in the top-level Tourer V models, paired with the heavy-duty R154 transmission. Being model year 1993, this particular car is one of the earlier releases of the JZX90 chassis code and rolled off the assembly line in the newly available pearl white color. It's got a few modifications including a Greddy front mount intercooler and piping kit, high flow intake and 3-inch turbo back full stainless exhaust, ORC twin plate clutch, K-Office coilovers, and a 2-way limited slip differential and 18-inch wheels. I imported this car back in 2019 with the intention of it being a winter car, but soon realized that with the power and the drift-oriented handling characteristics this car was set up for, the traction control system for 1993 wasn't enough to keep the car going straight on a wet or frosty road. I thoroughly enjoyed driving the car during the on-season and listening to the euphoric symphony of the 1J exhaust everywhere I went. However, after a box 2 VI for excessive noise, and several months of my passengers and I putting up with the awful idle noise of the twin plate clutch, the time was ripe to pass the car on to someone whose passengers don't mind the sound of rattling clutch plates in heavy downtown traffic. I took the car for one last drive before parting ways with it as it was taken in by a JDM used car dealership, and left with new cash in hand to fund my R32 Skyline GTR project, which we're excited to catch you up on in one of our upcoming episodes.